half of my life I've been overseas. I knew nothing about Montenegro. I've always found people who wanted to help me. You can't tell me to wear a mask. This isn't what I thought was going to happen. Moloko smetana. And his eyes went, where did you learn that word? If you watch this, use your Chinese. What's this guy's problem? I started thinking back to what used to make me laugh, and it was always connected to theater. Anyone can be an actor.
Hello and welcome to my show. It's actually a podcast, not a show. It's called, what is it called? On the Move. It's about people, who emigrated from their countries and ended up in the Balkans. Just like Nate. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Not bad. Yes. So we're in this cafe. It's springtime. It's really warm. So we decided to take this opportunity to do the interview outside. So you are not Montenegrin. I can tell.
Not even a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Where are you from originally?
So originally I was born in North Carolina in the United States, went to school in Tennessee, and then went to graduate school in Alabama. And then I met a Kazakh girl in graduate school in Alabama. And then we decided to get married, and then I moved to Kazakhstan. And so we were there for quite a while, and then went to China, and now here to Montenegro.
Wow. Like, what kind of span are we talking about? Like, did it happen in, I don't know, a couple of months? So
we just actually got back from Kazakhstan 2 weeks ago. No, I'm kidding. So we got married in, she's going to kill me. 1999, I think.
She's not going to see this interview unless you show her.
Yeah, well, she's going to want to see it. So yeah, we got married 1998, New Year's Eve on 1998 in Edinburgh, Scotland. And then we went to Kazakhstan and started having children. We had 2 kids.
Oh.
Lived in Kazakhstan for 14 years. And then I went to China, and we were in China for 9 years.
Wow.
And then we spent a year back in the States during the pandemic and came here 3 years ago. So
that's a lot.
For at least half of my adult life, half of my life, I've been overseas. So.
Have you always been that open to, this kind of experience of actually traveling and being a foreigner?
I never cared about being overseas outside of the United States, living outside of my country until I met my wife. I'd never imagined I would live I never had any desire to live outside of my country. And so when I met her, everything changed. And I realized in her that there are other people with other ways of thinking and living and doing. And I wanted to know her better. So then we went to Kazakhstan, and I thought I was going to be there for maybe 2 years. But like I said, it ended up being much longer. And now I can't imagine living back in my home country. So I just really enjoy being a place where I'm a guest and where I have to learn a new culture, learn a new people, learn about a place in a way that you can't when you're not there.
But that also means that you're going to have to rely on other people to do so because you don't speak the language, or not that much in any case. And you still kind of don't feel at home. And doesn't that bother you?
It hasn't. I mean, what I've found is that people in every place that I've lived, I've never had people be antagonistic toward me, treat me negatively for not being from there or from being from the United States. I've always found people who wanted to help me, or one story I remember is my wife needed to go in China, in Shenzhen, China. She needed to go to this particular store for her eyeglasses. Okay. And it was about an hour drive on the bus to get to this place. When she got there, she didn't know what the place was. And so she was just asking people in English. And this Chinese man stopped and said, "Oh, I know the place. I'll take you." So he spent an hour taking her there, helping her do her business, and then taking her back to the bus stop, and said goodbye and left when it was all over. And I mean, that's what I found that people are like. People generally are very open and hospitable and wanting to help and interested in people. And so my experience as an expat has been pretty good. So,
but have you ever wondered if it's because you're American that they were really nice to you, or is it because they're open, they're helpful?
Well, my wife's from Kazakhstan,
okay,
and she was treated that way. So,
okay.
For me, I'm sure there are times it's because I'm an American that people are like that, or because I speak English and people want to practice their English.
Yeah.
And I might have a different experience if I looked differently, or came from a different place. But I mean, my experience is only my experience.
There's this stereotype about Americans not willing to travel outside the country.
Mhm.
I wonder if that's what you have felt.
I mean, there is a stereotype like that, and I certainly know people who, people that I know back in the States, my friends or people I've known who that would be true. I think part of the issue is for Americans, the world is so far away. I mean, it's a lot closer than it used to be, but still, it's not cheap to get on an airplane and fly to Europe or fly to Asia. Or, it's a pretty big investment of time and energy. And if you've got a life where you've got kids in school or a spouse or whatever's going on, it's great to be in Europe where you can hop on get a Wizz Air flight for €20 and go anywhere you want. And but it's just a little more complicated. I think you might find that people are a little more open to traveling in the Americas. Like they might go down to the Caribbean, or they might go to Canada or Mexico or whatever, a little more easily. But yeah, I think probably a lot of people who knew me kind of wonder what's he doing? What's wrong with this guy's problem?
Exactly. Do you remember your first impression of being on foreign land?
So I do very well. So I actually went to Kazakhstan before we got married. With a group of friends from my graduate school. She had gone back, and we went to visit her and just to see Kazakhstan a little bit. And the morning we woke up, the plane landed in the middle of the night. And at that time, Almaty was not as well lit as it is now. So the drive to where we were staying was very dark and kind of ominous. And we were staying in this apartment on like the 15th floor of this apartment building. And that morning we got up and she called us and said, "How's it going?" And we had the windows open and there was a yard down below and buildings around. And I said, "Well, it's cool. We're listening to the call to prayer because Kazakhstan, it's a Muslim country for the most part." And so she was like, "What do you mean call to prayer?" And I said, "Yeah, we can hear the call to prayer outside." And she said, "What's it saying?" And I listened for a second and I said, "It's saying, Moloko Smetana." And she did exactly what you're doing and cracked up laughing. And it's like, "No, that's the sour cream and milk lady. That's not the call to prayer." So at that point, I realized I was in way over my head being in Kazakhstan.
Not that exotic after all, I guess.
Oh.
No, I actually didn't know it was a Muslim country.
Well, Kazakhs are traditionally Muslim. During the Soviet Union, it was pretty much stamped out. And so they largely were atheists. But since the Soviet Union broke apart, people have been becoming more and more Muslim.
So apart from people, what appealed to you in Kazakhstan?
That's a good question. I don't know if I can nail it down. I just, I had lots of really good friends there. And I was constantly humbled by people and their willingness to give. And like my wife doesn't come from a wealthy family. And even her family, they would go out and borrow money from relatives and neighbors to serve us a meal when we came. Because in Kazakhstan, maybe in other places it's the same, that they spread out food all over the table for the meal. And so that would be expensive. And for them, it's a matter of hospitality. And these people have come from far away. We need to treat them well. And over and over and over again, I had that happen to me. And it was, like I said, it was really humbling, especially being from America where, you go to somebody's house and maybe they offer you a Coca-Cola,
right?
And they typically won't do that. Yes. So I think it's made me more open to the idea of treating people well when they come than as I had before. Or again, the idea of hospitality.
Do you think living in all these countries, especially in the East, like China, for example, do you think it's changed you, the way you see yourself and the way you see other people?
I mean, I'm sure it has. We went back to the United States in the summer of 2021, having gone through the pandemic in China. And while we were there, a lot of our coworkers and colleagues had left to try to get away from the virus, not understanding that it was going to go global. And then China got shut down. And so we were one of the few foreign families, like in our little neighborhood, or even from my school that was still there. And one of the things that really struck me there is China is much more of a collectivist society, where it's the community matters more than the individual. And then coming from America, where America is all about the individual. You're the rugged individualist. You're the one, pull yourself up for your bootstraps. You don't need anybody's help and all that. And so then going back into the United States during the when Omicron was raging, the virus was raging, and seeing these arguments that people were having about you can't tell me to wear a mask, or you can't make my child wear a mask in school, and all this me stuff. Having been in a place where it was let's do this together. It was really kind of a experience for me. My brain just melted because I still feel like I've got that American individualist way about me, but I understand and feel a lot more sensitive to the idea of the importance of the community than I might have felt if I had never left the U.S. And I attribute that to Kazakhstan and China both, because they're much more collectivist societies.
Yeah, that's true. What about Montenegro? Is it somewhere in the middle?
Probably. I mean, because you can find in communism, the roots of all this in communism. But I think it's deeper than that. Like, I think it's an Asian thing. I think it's a Central Asian thing. But with Montenegro, having the communist roots, it's probably a bit like that as well. Maybe a little bit more mixture, because you got the European individualist attitudes is mixed in with this sort of heritage of community. I haven't seen it as much as I had seen it in those other locations, but I feel like it is still here more than it might be in the US.
In your travels, did you pick up a lot of the local languages though?
That's my big shame, is that I'm when I was in school, I studied French. In high school, I studied, in college, I studied Latin of all things in high school, and I barely passed both classes. And so I had it embedded in my brain that I just don't do well with foreign languages. I can get around in Kazakhstan with a bit of Kazakh and Russian. I never really learned Chinese at all. And part of this also is I'm a teacher, and I teach in international schools, and those are all English based. So I'm not immersed like you really need to be. But that's kind of an excuse. I still could have done it. I've had friends who were very intentional and focused in doing that. So it's possible. But unfortunately, with my wife, we never really sort of insisted that she never speak English to me, or that, forced me to learn. So yeah, I always pick up a little bit, but not as much as I should.
Well, there's still some charm in it. Still being able to say a few words in the local language will really woo lots of people, the locals.
It really does. But, I imagine, what if I had day one moved to Kazakhstan and started learning Kazakh,
right,
and then learned it really well, and then learned Russian really well. Then I go to China. I've got English, Kazakh, and Russian under my belt.
Yeah.
Then I was in 9 years in China. I could have walked out of China being a fluent Mandarin speaker. And then at this point, wherever I go, people would be like, "Oh, this guy speaks, Chinese or Russian or Kazakh or whatever." So for me, I feel like it's a missed opportunity for me to make more friends and to really get to know people well, and not have them have to speak my language, but me able to speak their language.
Then again, that's not something that most people would probably expect from you being the teacher of English.
That's what I like about it, though. That people wouldn't expect it. Like my daughter learned Chinese pretty well, and so when we're back in the States, there are a few Chinese restaurants in our neighborhood, and so every time we go, I'm like, talk to them in Chinese. Do you think anybody else here ever talks to them in Chinese? Yeah. And how much they would appreciate it,
Absolutely.
And she's too shy to do it. So
I think she should totally go for it.
I agree. Asena, if you watch this, use your Chinese.
Can I ask you a personal question though?
Sure.
Which language do you actually use in your family?
English.
Just English.
Mm-hmm.
I've always wondered if you can swear in a different language and actually feel it.
Well, yeah, a funny story about that. And if my wife watches this, she might get on me for this. But we were married for a few years, and then one day I was talking to one of my Kazakh friends, and there was this particular word that my wife would say every now and then, and I'm not going to say it, but I'll let you fill in the blank what it might be.
Okay.
And I asked my friend, I was like, what does this word mean? And I said the word, and his eyes went, where did you learn that word? I said, Kuyash says it to me when she's mad at me. And he's like, she says that? And so apparently it's a really, really bad word. And I would say with our relationship, she's been speaking English for years. Like she studied in university when she was 16, 17 years old. And she's an incredibly fluent English speaker. So she would say that, she's not really expressing her heart in English, but she probably comes as close to anybody being able to do that. And then my kids, they're all English speakers as well. So she's the only one that would maybe have that issue.
So how come you're in Montenegro?
My work.
Oh.
So I've worked for the past almost 20 years with an international school called QSI. And we're located in countries all over the world. And so they have a really good transfer system. So I went to Kazakhstan originally as a husband, started doing some theater work there. And then we moved to a different part of the country. And my kids were school age at that time. And there was no international school except for the QSI school. And we wanted the kids to be in an international school. So I went to them and bartered that I would do some teaching and my kids could go for a good price. And the next thing you know, I'm certified and teaching full time and transferring to China and then transferring to here. So we had that year at home, and then I accepted a position here with my company. So,
but did you have a say in it? Or did you have a choice? Because it's not exactly on the map. I mean, it's on the map, but
right.
You know what I mean.
We knew we wanted to be in Europe if possible, but we don't have a lot of schools in Europe, but we have a lot of schools in the Balkans. And so we were offered a school that we turned down in another part of the region. And then they offered Montenegro, and I knew nothing about Montenegro. It was a blank slate in my mind. I'd heard of it, but I had no knowledge about it, and very little knowledge about Yugoslavia. My wife had more, because it was closer to the Soviet Union than it was to the U.S. And so we just started looking it up, and of course, if you look up Montenegro on YouTube, all the videos look like you're on the coast. It's like this is. But then we started reading. Podgorica says it's not like the coast, it's not like the mountains, but we have an 11-year-old who was 9 at the time. And it seemed like a good place to have a kid that age, raise a kid that age, safe place. Not so much lots to do, but you could get out and do lots of things in nature and
explore.
Absolutely. Like if you're older, for a teenager, it might be a little more of a challenging place to be for a foreigner. But yeah, it seemed like a nice change from Central Asia and Asia.
Have your kids ever complained about, being in random places and not in America, for example?
Well, my oldest, who is 24, is in America right now. And so when they graduated from school, they graduated from China, a school in China. They were like, I want to be in America because I've never been in America. And then my daughter is in school in Amsterdam, but she would like to be back in America because we in 2018, we bought a place in Asheville, North Carolina. And it's just a beautiful place with mountains and all that. And she would like to go back, and she'll probably go back. And my youngest, who's here, if we told him we were moving back tomorrow, he would be very happy. But that said, I think they all have had good experiences being overseas and on some level appreciate. I think the hardest thing was when we moved from Kazakhstan to China, it uprooted them. And then they started putting down roots in China because the city we moved to had really bad pollution. After 2 years, we put in for transfer to another city in China. And then they had to be pulled out of that and put into a new place. So that was a hard transition. But otherwise, I think they've enjoyed it.
It's not like they are completely out of it because they are, as you said, like they're learning. They learned, and the youngest one is still learning in an international school. So they're surrounded by English speakers, apparently. If anything, it just doesn't feel like they're missing out on much. And they can always catch up later. Right.
I mean, that's been our feeling, is that like I'm happy to feel like my kids are globally minded, and from experience, not just from watching YouTube or something. And I think it's made them more empathetic people and more understanding and more patient and more open. Which I'm glad about that too. Like I feel like they're going to be good people when they grow up, and I think it's partly because of the experiences they've had.
Here's hoping. Can you tell us a bit about your work? So you work as a teacher of English. have you noticed any changes, like when it comes to the character, your average student in China, your average student in Montenegro, average student in Kazakhstan, if you had any, how big an influence does the local culture, the local maybe stereotypes of character or mentality have on them learning English?
So just to clarify, I'm not teaching English right now.
Oh.
I was in China. I was like a writing and literature teacher. So I was sort of an English teacher.
Okay.
But not like an English for other languages
Right.
kind of situation.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. But I can answer the question about the students. I loved my students here in Montenegro, and I loved my students in China and in Kazakhstan. But it was really strange going from an Asian context into a European context with teaching, where in Asia, you had to tell students, stop studying, go
Relax.
relax, go watch a movie, read a book, just stop studying so much. It's 3:00, go to bed, And here it's been like, please study. Like it's harder to get kids enthusiastic about the academics. At least in my experience. And we've got good students here and we've got hardworking students here, but it was more normal there to have students working really hard. Because if you're a Korean student or a Chinese student, if you don't get into the right university, then you don't have the life that you're wanting to give your parents. Whereas here, the students, they're going to go to a university, maybe in Europe, maybe in the United States, maybe here in Montenegro, but they're going to go to a university and then they're going to have a job. They're going to get some sort of a job, maybe with their family business or whatever. So it's not as pressing on them as it is for the students in Asia. So that's been a bit of a challenge to get used to.
I met Nate at Melt, like one of the Melt meetings. Would you mind telling the viewers what Melt might be?
Sure. I'll give you a little bit of background. So when I was in Kazakhstan, I didn't originally work with an international school. I originally founded an English language theater company in Almaty, Kazakhstan, on the campus of a university there. And we started just as sort of a university club. And then it became an actual proper theater where we did productions 2 or 3 times a year. Really built a community of people that it was a mixture of kids from Kazakhstan that were students at the university, and then people from outside the university, expats, people who were there for business or other reasons, who just they wanted a creative outlet. And so we went from doing these tiny little, short little plays to doing full length productions. And when I left, I was happy that someone took it over and it continued. And the community is still there now and still going. And every now and then they're still doing productions and different things. So that was called the Kazakhstan English Language Theater, or KELT. And so then I never did that in China because I was teaching drama at the school. And then when I came here, there was something missing. Like I felt like I looked back, and the pandemic affected everybody in different ways. But for me, one of the things was like I felt like I had lost the ability to have joy, and like I didn't laugh anymore. Things used to make me laugh, and I wasn't laughing. And so a friend of mine who was a part of KELT in Kazakhstan came to visit here last November, and she was my Juliet 13 years ago, and when we did Romeo and Juliet, and now she's doing her own thing. She was 15 then, now she's an adult, doing her own thing. She's got a lot of creative things that she's doing, and so when we were talking, I started thinking back to what used to make me laugh, and it was always connected to theater. Like we'd be in a rehearsal and somebody would do something and I'd just have tears rolling down my face because I was laughing so much, or we were playing theater games or something. And I was like, that's what I'm missing. I don't have theater in my life anymore. And so contacted the American Corner and asked them, could I start this? Like I don't need to be paid and we're not going to charge any money, but can we just have this community? Can we try to build that community here? So we're still only been going for 2 months now. So we're starting, it's on the ground floor. But already we've had, consistent people coming and joining and being a part of it. And after the meetings, they go to get coffee together. And I'm like, that's what I wanted, is for people to start connecting and have this be their connecting point. Mm-hmm. And so we'll see where it goes. And being that it's a theater, hopefully it will eventually be productions and plays and things that will have an audience coming and watching. But for now, it's just getting people comfortable together and confident to take risks And which is, by the way, that's what I really appreciated the time you came, is that, I had no idea who you were. You didn't know who we were. And you just jumped in with all your energy and all your heart. And like, it was awesome. You were doing exactly what I want people to do there. So I appreciate that risk-taking nature that you showed at that.
Yeah, I wouldn't miss this opportunity. Like if there's something going on, like I'm part of it. I want to be part of it. Like, because I feel like I'm missing out on lots of things. Like right after this interview, I'm going to this immersive quiz game show based on the Twin Peaks universe. It's in Russian. Because whatever is new, like I want to be there, obviously. But I didn't actually know that it's been active for 2 months. So, because you seem like a professional, you know exactly what you're doing. And I mean, you are a professional, but like the people, I thought they already knew each other very well.
Yeah, that's the great thing about being creative. And again, taking risks with people is it bonds you together in a way that if you just got together like as a book club or something, it wouldn't necessarily have the same impact.
So what are some of the reasons like that people might be coming to your Melt meetings? So
the thing that has been really interesting to me is, we're the Montenegro English Language Theater, which is the name I gave it because we did that in Kazakhstan. And I realized about 2 or 3 weeks in that we had no Montenegrins. As I was meeting people, everybody was either Russian or Ukrainian or, Belarus or UK or France or Italy, and but no Montenegrins. And I'm like, well, this isn't what I thought was going to happen. I thought we would have more Montenegrins, and hopefully over time we will get more. But what people have told me, this is individual points of view, but I had one gentleman 2 weeks ago who's Ukrainian. And afterwards, he said, thank you for giving us this, because I have so much on my mind all the time. And for these 90 minutes, I'm laughing, I'm having fun, and it like all goes away. And so I think considering that all of these, most of these people are not at their home, they want something like they had at home. And, the ones from Russia, Ukraine probably had creative communities like this that they left when they came here. And and maybe they just haven't found that here yet. And so I think everyone would have a different answer to that question. But I think people are just looking for a way to like for me, to find some joy and some laughter and express themselves and look foolish and be okay with looking foolish and all of that.
Maybe they just don't really see the point of, being foolish and just trying to fool around, because they're adults. They're on a different level, maybe. But
maybe, yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure you'll find the people who actually want that.
Well, and part of it also might be that one of the things we had to overcome in Kazakhstan was this idea that anyone can be an actor, anyone can do theater. Because in Almaty at the time, you had your actors. They had the Russian language theater, the Kazakh language theater, the German language theater, and these people did this all the time. And so the idea that I can be a businessman and then after hours go and perform was an unusual idea in Kazakhstan. And, my sense is maybe for some people that's true here as well, because Montenegro has its professional theater companies and film companies and all that. And maybe just average people are like, I could never do that. How could I have a part of that? So I would love for people to realize that anyone can do it. I mean, the more professional you are, the sort of the different level you would do it. But none of these people who come to Melt are professionals. Some of them have more experience than others. Some of them have had a lot of experience in their native language, but in English, none of them are professionals, but they're still willing to come and do it because it's a challenge. It's something new. Absolutely. And they know that I can do this as just a regular person. So that's what I would love, to get people to break down that, if that's the challenge, break through that and come give it a shot.
I really hope that more people actually come and just experience that, because you need to feel something new, like the sense of novelty, sense of, okay, I don't know what's going to happen next minute, because we plan too much.
Well, and that's theater as a whole. That's what it's all about. I mean, what we do now is we're largely doing improvisation games. And that's completely what you're talking about. You don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know what you're going to be asked to do next. But then let's say that you put in months with a play where you're learning a character and you're rehearsing and you're learning lines and getting blocking and getting on the stage and you're doing it. When the curtain opens and you've got an actual audience there, anything can happen. And so, even live theater has that spontaneity and that sort of moment in which you're like, I don't know what's going to happen here, but I've got to make it work. That's the wonderful thing about it to me is it's all baked into the whole art. Right. And then you can take all of this and apply it to anything. Sure. Like if you're in politics, if you're a politician, you got to learn to think on your feet, speak extemporaneously. If you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, if you're a teacher, just in life in general, anything could happen right now, and we've got to deal with it. Theater, I think, helps prepare people for that.
Let's summarize. You've got a wife, kids. You love your job. You love your theater. Mm-hmm. Do you consider yourself a happy person?
A happy person?
Yes.
Well, I have moments of happiness. And then I have moments, I think I'm sort of like this, if anybody knows me, they know that I don't have overwhelming emotional outbursts about things. I don't go deep into darkness, where I have to lay curled up in a bed. I'm just kind of right here most of the time. And then I have moments of joy, and happiness. And I've learned that sometimes you have to create the opportunity for those things to happen. Like it's really easy just to sit at home and never go anywhere, never do anything. And especially if you work full time, you're tired at the end of the day, you want to go home. But if you're willing to step out of that and to try, you can find ways to find that kind of happiness that maybe is hard to find, or that the world is you feel like the world's trying to press it out of you.
If there was a genie, not me, sitting right next to you, and he could make any of your wishes come true, what would it be?
Oh gosh. And I can't wish for more wishes.
I don't think, that would be cheating.
Right.
But only for you personally, not like world peace, because that's not something that we can change, unfortunately. Right.
So the one thing in my life that I haven't been able to pull off is I would really love, I've written scripts, and I would really love to have a script eventually go on screen. Like I'd love to write a movie that eventually gets made into a movie. And I've written them, I tried to do it, but part of the problem with living internationally is like, if you're in the US, if you want to do that, you have to live in Los Angeles or Chicago or New York or places where that stuff is going on. And living internationally, if it's going to happen, it's going to be, like I said, because I make an opportunity and make it happen. And I've never pursued that to the end on any, like not on a full length film kind of thing. If I could wish, that would be that I would actually get to make a movie and have it on a screen and have people go and watch it, and that, people enjoy it.
We don't know what's going to happen next. So maybe, next thing you know, you're going to be relocated to a country where, cinematography is particularly strong, and, there's everything, the TV crew or cinema crew there waiting for you.
Maybe.
And we're going to see one of your movies.
Maybe we can have the Montenegro English language movie.
Right. That's something to think about.
Nice. Have to work on the name, I think.
Yeah. Well, I wish you all the best.
Yeah, thank you.
With your books, with your scripts, and of course with Melt. Please come over. Is it every Tuesday now?
Every Tuesday.
Yes.
And we're also on Instagram, so find Melt Podgorica on Instagram.
We're going to add it to the comments section or whatever, to the description down below, in any case. Thank you for this wonderful interview, for this opportunity to talk to you tonight.
Yep, my pleasure. Thank you, Vadim.
Thank you. So don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell button, that kind of thing. And all right, I'll see you.